What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey, and today we're going to be talking about, I know we just got the win. It's great. We're going into the All-Star break with a W after that St. Louis game, and I know it's great that we came out clutch in that third period and won that game, but let's be real. The first 40 minutes were ugly, and the last three games prior to that were ugly as well. The Jets have found themselves in a little bit of a slump going into the All-Star break, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it, before we get too far into the All-Star game and we start talking about all that stuff, because I think that there's a lot of cause for concern right now with the Jets. Now, I'm not saying panic time and the season's over and the Jets are frauds, because they're not. I think that when I look at this team right now, I think they're really finding their identity. They're finding their weak points. Teams are finding their weak points as well, not only within the organization from without. And I think that it's time for this team to, and the management especially, to really start looking at some trade options, especially when you look at the defense right now and the way that they've been playing as of late. And, we're focusing really on guys like Neil Pionk, Brendan Dillon, Logan Stanley since coming back from injury, the play of the top six at times, the depth forwards, guys we've got in and out, and what this team's just going to look like and what, they should look at doing going into the trade deadline and the coming up weeks to that. And what I think it really comes down to is the fact that when you look at the streak, some of the worst play we've seen has been from Neil Pionk and some of the defense at times. Logan Stanley and Neil Pionk have been just two eyesores out there, especially for me, and I just cannot take them anymore. Neil Pionk was serviceable for us for a while, don't get me wrong. He had the great year after signing after the trade, and he's been good for us at times, don't get me wrong. But this year, Neil Pionk, and even going back last year at times, just hasn't felt like a impactful presence out there consistently on the ice. And when you look at what we're paying him right now, and you just look at the overall construct of the cap for the Winnipeg Jets on the defense especially, it's just on guys that just really feel like you don't need to be spending it on. And we've talked about this before, but going into the trade deadline, you need to look at caps. You need to look at what guys could be moving out to bring in talent. And I look at guys like Neil Pionk and Brendan Dillon as guys that could definitely be expendable going into the trade deadline. And I know what you're probably thinking, why would you trade out a guy like Neil Pionk, blah, blah, blah. You think that you want him for this team, but reality is that when you look at guys that we don't even have playing right now, and even Dylan Samberg statistically has been better than Logan Stanley, and even on par with Brendan Dillon at times, advanced stats wise and just points wise. Like, he is having a very underrated, quiet year down there, and I think he should be playing more. It's as simple as that. Not to mention he's making league minimum. You want to use prospects like that are good, and the Jets are finding themselves in the situation where they have good depth. Even Kyle Capobianco playing over Logan Stanley in yesterday's game with the Blues says enough about the play of Logan Stanley as of late. And Capobianco came in and played great. And again, Capobianco is making league minimum. So if you want a league minimum defenseman out there, maybe it shouldn't be Logan Stanley who's making $900,000 compared to the other bits of money. And again, that all adds up when you're bringing in contracts. Like, I think that Neil Pionk at this point could be the expendable guy you look at when you're trying to shed camp going into the trade deadline. He's only 27 years old right now, making $5.87, which is honestly not a terrible contract for him. I think around $5 million is fair for Neil Pionk, maybe around 4.5 on the low, but he still puts up points. He still has decent games. He's just not a bona fide, consistent, I would say, number one pairing or even top second pairing guy at times. He's a top four guy that can float around at times, really. And even for certain matchups, he's better used in the bottom pairing. And it's not a knock on Neil Pionk. Like I said, he's been good at times, and he's having an okay year. He's got 21 points in 51 games, 7 goals. Like, I'm not going to say the guy's trash. And I just think that when you look at expendable guys, I think Neil Pionk could be a dude that you look at moving out. Like, let's look at Timo Meier, for example. If you put together a package of potentially Neil Pionk, and then maybe a prospect in there like, I don't know, I don't want to say a Chaz Lucasen, but maybe like a Daniel Torgensen and a second-round pick, that's not a terrible offer. And that's just off the top of my head. Obviously, there's room for improvement on that, but that's not a terrible trade when you look at what Bo Horvat just went for. Bo Horvat, one of the top-tier guys available going into the deadline this year, just went for a roster player, a good prospect, a first-round pick. The stereotypical trade for a guy like that, and even then, it wasn't a super amazing trade. Anthony Bellevue is not that amazing of a player compared to Bo Horvat. I know he's younger, but I would take Bo Horvat any day of the week over that. That's an L, in my opinion, for Vancouver. I know the prospect's good, but what are the Canucks doing right now with their prospects? They're all playing in Abbotsford, so I don't know. I think that when you look at this team right now, Brendan Dillon, like the other guys, you can move out. Those guys are people that should be gone. Logan Stanley should be gone. The top six needs some life in there. It needs a jolt. The bottom six can easily be fixed by trading for another top six winger, because then that would force Blake Wheeler down, and then you could put Blake Wheeler on a line with Adam Lowry and Morgan Barron, and then having a checking line where you're rotating in guys like Saku Menelainen, Sam Gagner, Stenlund, Kuhlman, Mason Appleton's coming back from injury. Like, they're going to have a lot more options if they just trade for one top six forward, because that one top six forward would legit balance out the Jets lines almost perfectly with the way the depth already is. You would have perfect amount of players that are NHL caliber and ready to go any minute in the press box, that are serviceable for matchups, especially in the playoffs, depending on how things are going in a series and down the stretch. That would be the Jets' best bet. I look at San Jose and I think that's a good market. I look at the Canucks still with Brock Besser and Connor Garland over there. That could be a good market. They're looking for younger defensemen. That they love size out there. Rick Tocchet and those guys like size. So Logan Stanley could be an option that they look at, a younger guy that needs a fresh start. Maybe he could work in Vancouver. I'm not saying he's going to be a centerpiece, but these are pieces that GMs will look at when they're thinking about moving out guys. And I think the Jets have enough interesting prospects, interesting picks, and interesting roster players that they could be willing to move out to get a new influx of talent into this team to really put them over the edge. And that could be exactly what the Jets need going forward. I really think that it comes down to a West Coast team when you really look at the trade options out there. I think Timo Meier is probably the best fit for this club. I really think so. I know you're going to be bringing in the whole long-term contract stuff and after that, but when you're talking about just adding talent and going for it this year, which I think the Jets should do, I think that you're running out of time with this window and this core. You need to go for it. This is a year where you're good in the standings. Matchups are looking good potentially if you can continue to hold your spot in the standings. That's what they got to do. They got to go out now. That's just in my opinion, but you look at this losing streak, you see the flaws in this team, you see where they could use some talent, and I really think that dropping down Wheeler and just kind of balancing out those lines once you get the Mason Appleton back could really put the Jets over the top. And then the defense, you already have guys waiting. Sandberg could come in and fill that role. Josh Morrissey is a fucking stud this year and is going to carry that top pairing. Dylan DeMello is very serviceable and having a great year defensively and offensively. If you trade out Brendan Dillon or Neil Pionk, you still have one or the other. Nate Schmidt's been has been playing better as of late. I've still liked his play. Nate Schmidt's another guy you could move out. We haven't even talked about right now. If you retain a little bit of salary, I know he's got that no movement clause, and the Jets are winning, so he's probably not going to want to leave. So that's going to be a tougher contract. But again, you have these options where the Jets should look at moving a defenseman out. And I know we've talked a lot about it, but now you move a guy out and you bring in Cap. You add to this team, and I think that's exactly what they need to do. I think the defense is cause for panic right now because the way it's set up for kind of not helping itself out. I think the defense was better when Sandberg was in and Logan Stanley was out. I think that was evident even in last night's game with Capobianco coming in. It made a difference, and the Jets won. I know it wasn't a perfect game, and we're not going to praise it and say it's the perfect shining star example of what this team needs to do to win, because it wasn't. That 40 minutes was terrible. It was a great third period effort, but I think that when it comes down to it, the nitty-gritty this team needs to improve on is moving out a defenseman, rebalancing that 4-3 pairings. You've got good depth on the side and call-ups that can come up anytime. Then you're loaded to go. This team needs a top six guy up there to balance up the forwards, in my opinion. And the defense is kind of what's keeping us back right now. We don't need these guys playing. They're not playing well as it is. Move them out. Add to the forwards, and then let the younger guys come in and really take over, because it's not like we've seen a small sample size at this point of Dylan Sandberg. Sandberg's been great for this club. There's no denying it. He's been consistently solid and growing his game every time he steps on the ice, in my opinion, in little ways, and I've really liked his confidence this year, and I want to see him play more. I think that he is honestly very underrated when you look at where the Jets are this year with points. He's got 8 points in 38 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, is a +7. He's only got 12 penalty minutes. He's played good hockey and down there on that third line, and I think that he would be able to come in there and he could even be moved up and play good hockey. You've got Ville Hinola on the side too there, Capobianco. You could add some depth defensemen that'll be available for maybe a 4th round pick, or you move out a depth forward like a Saku Menelainen and you do a little swap there. There's things that Chevy has done in the past that he could do now, and I want to see him do it, and I think now more than ever is the right time to do it. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are on all this down in the comment section below. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think I am within reason? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If this is the first time checking out a video here on the channel, definitely drop a like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it. Follow the links down in the description below. Have a great rest of your day. Peace and positivity as always. Go Jets, go! And I'll see you guys in the next one.